Very good morning to all of you. Welcome back. So, I hope you guys were able to solve the questions of overheads and activity-based costing. So now, today we are starting with a new chapter that is cost sheet. It's a very small chapter and it's a very easy chapter. So I'll be covering all the concepts plus how to prepare cost sheet. And further, I'll be discussing one or two questions. So whatever the queries you guys have, you guys can please post your queries. So let's start with cost sheet. Now, this part I have discussed in overheads also, but still there are few new students. So let me give you a brief about the total cost. When talking about total cost, it is classified in two parts. That is direct cost and indirect cost. When talking about direct cost, what is direct cost? The cost that is directly attributable in manufacturing a product is direct cost. The cost that is directly attributable in manufacturing a product is direct cost. When talking about indirect cost, this cost plays a supporting role in manufacturing a product. This cost play a supporting role in manufacturing a product. Now, when talking about direct cost, it can be classified in three parts. Direct material, direct labor, and all the direct expenses. When talking about indirect cost also, it is classified in three parts. Indirect material, indirect labor, and indirect expenses. So this part we have already discussed in overhead. So it's just a revision only. When talking about total cost, direct cost, indirect cost, direct cost, the cost that is directly attributable in manufacturing a product is direct cost. When talking about indirect cost, this cost plays a supporting role in manufacturing a product is indirect cost. Further, this direct and indirect costs are classified in three parts, that is material, labor, and expenses. Now, let me give you a quick brief about what is the difference between direct and indirect material. When talking about direct material or indirect material, let me discuss this part with the help of an example. So let's say I'm the manufacturer of shirts. Now my shirts are made up of fabric and buttons and thread. So this fabric, button and thread is what my direct material. When talking about indirect material in this case, let's say these shirts are stitched on machines. And for the smooth functioning of machine, I need some sort of lubricating oil and grease. This lubricating oil, grease are nowhere present in the final product. But yes, to manufacture a shirt properly, I need lubricating oil, grease, or whatever it is. So all these are what we call as indirect material. Another example, that's what I have mentioned in overheads also, wherein let's say I'm the manufacturer of cakes. Now, these cakes are made up of milk, egg, yeast, or we can say milk powder and whipped cream. So they are the major ingredients in manufacturing a cake. So these are direct material. But let's say to maintain the hygiene standards, my chef uses apron, we can say cap, chef cap, and disposable gloves. So again, this disposable gloves, apron, cap are nowhere present in the final product. But yes, to maintain the hygiene standards, these products are also used by my chef. So these are what we call as indirect material. When talking about the difference in direct and indirect labor, let's say again, I'm a manufacturer of shirts and I have appointed a team of 100 tailors who are into stitching shirts. So whatever the wages I'm paying to these tailors or my workforce, they are my direct labor because they are directly involved in manufacturing a product. But let's say to supervise the work done by them, I have kept 4 to 5 supervisors. So whatever the amount that is paid to supervisor is my indirect labor because they are directly not involved in manufacturing my shirt. They are just supervising the work done by my labor or my workforce, whatever it is. Let's say I've kept a gatekeeper at the factory. Again, to maintain the security or to keep, the factory secured, I need a watchman or a gatekeeper. So again, whatever the amount that is paid to the gatekeeper is my indirect labor because he is not directly involved in manufacturing my shirt. When talking about direct expenses, there is a list given in the study material also. You guys can refer the study material. That is cost of utilities such as power, fuel and steam, royalty paid or payable for production or provision of services, higher charges paid for hiring specific equipments, fees for technical assistance, know-how, amortization of molds, dies, cost for product or special design, whatever it is, and other expenses that are directly related to production. So in short, when talking from practical questions point of view, you'll be able to understand that what all are direct expenses. Generally in questions, it is given power, coal and fuel, or we can say the direct expenses straight away, or amortization of mold or dies, whatever it is. So you'll be able to understand. So once you practice or once you'll see 3 to 4 questions, you'll be able to figure out that what all are direct expenses. So in short, few examples: power, coal and fuel, amortizations of mounts and dies, fees for technical assistance, or whatever it is. So this is all what about direct expenses. When talking about indirect expenses, never ending list. जो किसी में भी cover नहीं हो रहा है, that is covered in indirect expenses. Depreciation, audit fees, electricity, lighting, rent, insurance, audit fees. So all these commissions, whatever it is. So all these are covered under indirect expenses. Now, when talking about the total of these three in cost sheet, we will call it as prime cost. That is direct material, direct labor, and direct expenses. The total of these three is what we call as prime cost. Now, when talking about indirect cost, we call it as overheads. When talking about indirect costs, we call them as overheads. And these overheads are incurred at 3 stages, that is factory, administration, and selling and distribution. So I request you guys to please copy this part, then I'll write few more points. So I request you guys to please copy this explanation. Admin sir, are you there? Admin sir, the screen is visible. Mr. Mallu Jadar has mentioned that the screen is not visible properly. Visible hai ekdam, letters and all are visible. I think it is visible. Mr. Mallu, I request you guys, you to please refresh your internet connection. I request you guys to please copy this explanation quick. Right now, I have not. Right now, till now, I have discussed nothing about cost sheet. I'm just giving you a brief about the total cost of a product. So, as I said, that the cost can be classified in two parts: direct and indirect cost. Now, when talking about indirect cost, we call it as overheads also. Now, these overheads are incurred at three stages: factory, office and admin, and selling and distribution. When talking about the factory, it can be rent of factory. I'm writing few examples for your reference. Depreciation. If indirect wages is given or indirect labor is given, it will go in factory overheads. Repairs to machinery. When talking about office and administration, again, rent of office building. It can be postage and telegram. If given straight away, then we'll put in office and administration. Audit fees. If salaries are given, then salaries, etc. When talking about the selling and distribution overheads, it can be advertisement, depreciation on delivery vehicles, salesman salary, etc. So these are the few illustrations. So in short, when talking about the indirect costs, they are incurred at three stages: the factory, office and administration, and selling and distribution. So this is all what about the total cost. Now, when talking about cost sheet, what is cost sheet? Cost sheet is a statement wherein we systematically arranges this total cost to calculate the cost of product. What is cost sheet? Cost sheet is a statement wherein we systematically arrange all the expenditures that are incurred in relation to a product. So what is cost sheet? Cost sheet is a statement. एक कॉस्ट स्टेटमेंट एक स्टेटमेंट है जिसमें हम लोग जो भी खर्चा होने वाला है एक पर्टिकुलर प्रोडक्ट के लिए उसको सिस्टमैटिकली अरेंज करते हैं. दिस इज ऑल व्हाट अबाउट कॉस्ट शीट. So all these direct and indirect costs are systematically arranged in this cost statement, and that statement is called as cost sheet. So if you guys have any doubts till now, you guys can please post your queries. Those who want to copy this explanation can please copy. So, what is cost sheet? Very simple. It's a statement wherein we systematically arrange all the cost that will be incurred in relation to a particular product. If you guys have any doubts till now, you guys can please. Ayushi Mehta, sir, what is the difference between administration overhead and general administration overhead? I'll be discussing this part in detail, but yes, administration overhead and general administration overhead are same only. I repeat again, administration overhead or general administration overhead are same, but yes, administration overhead related to production is different. This is a new term. So administration overhead, it is given, then it will form part of administration overhead. General administration overheads, if it is given, it will also form part of administration overhead. But if it is administration overhead related to production, we have to place it somewhere. So I'll be discussing this part while preparing cost sheet. So now I hope this basic part is clear that what we'll be studying in this chapter about the total cost of a product and how to systematically arrange the total cost in a statement. And that statement is called as cost sheet. So let's start with cost sheet. Let's start with the preparation of statement of cost sheet. Good morning, Arjun. Now, the first thing what we will write in cost sheet is opening stock of raw material. Opening stock of raw material. This is the first thing what we will write while preparing cost sheet, that is opening stock of raw material. Thereafter, in opening stock of raw material, we will add purchase. Purchase of what? Raw material. And from this, we will subtract less opening stock, add purchases of raw material, less closing stock of raw material, we will get raw material consumed. Now, let's say in question, no information is given as regards opening stock, purchase, or closing stock of raw material. Simply it is given direct material. Then no need to do any exercise, just write direct material. So if direct material is given straight away, it means it is raw material consumed, it will be placed in cost sheet. But if direct material is not given and some information is given in the question as regards opening stock, purchases, closing stock of raw material, then you have to write in this way and you have to calculate raw material consumed. Now, when talking about the purchase of raw material, when talking about the purchase of raw material, when talking about the purchase of raw material, whatever the cost of raw material incurred till the factory gate will form part of purchase price of raw material. I repeat again, whatever the cost of raw material till the factory gate will form part of cost of raw material, purchase price of raw material. Let's say I've imported raw material from China and I have paid certain price to my supplier. Now, the price paid to the supplier plus whatever the cost that is incurred from China till the factory gate will also form part of purchase cost of raw material. So, when talking about the purchase of raw material, whatever the price paid for purchase, that is purchase price, plus the cost till the factory gate will form part of purchase of raw material. So let's say it can be, if we are importing the raw material, then import duty if we are paying, carriage inward, very important, carriage inward. If carriage inward is given, it will form part of purchase price. Carriage inward or freight inward or freight inward. If insurance cost of raw material is given, I mean for transit insurance of raw material is given, then also it will form part of purchase price. If we are paying any sort of octroi, right now this tax is abolished after GST, but still if the question is giving octroi, then you have to add it to the cost of raw material. Further, any GST paid, it will be added to the cost of raw material. Now, I have paid import duty, and let's say I'm getting a duty drawback or a duty credit of import duty. So if I'm paying, it will be added. But if I'm getting some credit back, or we are getting any sort of duty drawback, again it will be deducted because it is not a cost to us since we are paying duty. But if we are getting a duty drawback, then again it will be duty drawback. It will be deducted. Suppose if we are getting the credit of GST paid, if we are getting the credit of GST paid also, then again GST will be deducted. So in short, if we are paying GST and we are getting credit of GST, no need to consider GST. I repeat again, if I'm paying GST and if I'm getting the credit of the GST back, no need to include in the purchase price of raw material. So if I'm getting the GST credit back, it will be deducted. Further, let's say during transit, some part of raw material is, let's say, let's say damaged. And we are selling that raw material in the market and we are realizing some value. So that value realized on sale of raw material is also to be deducted. So scrap value realized on sale of raw material. It will be. And this final amount will place here in the cost sheet. All these calculation can be a part of the working note also, or alternatively, you can write all this in the cost sheet also. Both the approaches are correct. So it is advisable to write in cost sheet, but still if you just want to perform it, make it as a part of working note also, you can. But it is advisable to put all these figures in the cost sheet itself. If you guys have any doubts in this part, you guys can please post. So when talking about the GST part, then yes, if we are paying GST and if we are getting the credit back, we are getting the credit also of GST, then better to ignore GST. Acha, again, one more point, very important point. If government is providing subsidy on purchase of raw material, again it will be deducted. So let's say I'm purchasing a particular raw material at the rate 100 and government is providing subsidy of rupees 20. So my net cost will be what? 80. That is 100 minus 20, 80 will be the net cost of raw material for me. If you guys have any doubts in this part, you guys can please post your queries. Waiting for your queries, guys. Yes, Shoaib, I have already mentioned carriage inward. Further, if we are getting any sort of discount also, then it is also to be deducted. Waiting for your queries, guys. This amount will be amortized and it will form part of direct expenses. It's not a material. They are purchasing a frame, not the raw material, my dear. Let's say I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm into manufacturing of plastic buckets. Now, these plastic buckets are made up of PP granules, and to form the shape of bucket, I have to purchase dies. So it's just like a die or mold. So ultimately, we have to amortize the cost of these dies and molds over the period. I mean, over the years. That's what it is. So let's say if I receive a special order to manufacture a special type of bucket. So to manufacture that special bucket, I have to purchase die. So it's just like it will form part of direct expenses and it will be amortized over the period. The total cost will not form part of cost sheet, but it is to be amortized over the years till the time we are getting that special order from a particular buyer. Anyways, so this is all what about direct material, raw material consumed. Now, in this raw material consumed, we will add direct wages. In this raw material, we will add direct wages and direct expenses. So, direct material, direct wages, and direct expenses, the total will be what? My prime cost. Now, when talking about direct wages also, again, the wages paid, if we are giving them any bonus, it will form part of direct wages. If we are giving any incentive, it will form part of direct wages. Further, if we are providing them any perquisites, if we are providing them any facilities also, or let's say employer is contributing towards PF, Provident Fund or ESI, whatever it is, plus any sort of allowances received. All this will form part of direct wages. So all these items are to be presented in cost sheet, but for better understanding, I have written over here. So when talking about wages, it covers whatever the amount that are paid to labor by whatever name called, directly or indirectly, will form part of direct wages. So opening stock of raw material, first thing, add purchase of raw material, less closing stock of raw material, we will get raw material consumed. In this raw material consumed, we will add direct wages and direct expenses. The total will be what? My prime cost. If you guys have any doubts till now, you guys can please post your query. We can write perquisites also here. Perquisites means the benefit, that is medical facility, insurance facility, food facility. So whatever the benefits also that are provided to the workers will also form part of the direct wages cost. Now, after calculating the prime cost, if we add all the factory overheads, if we add all the factory overheads in the prime cost, we'll get the gross factory cost or gross work cost. So the first thing what you have to do is calculate the prime cost, that is direct material, direct labor and direct expenses. We will get the prime cost. After prime cost, we have to add all the factory overheads. After adding the factory overheads, we will get gross factory oblique work cost. In this, we will make adjustments of opening and closing work in progress if given in question. Opening work in progress and closing work in progress. After making adjustments of opening and closing work in progress, we will get what? The factory oblique work. If you guys have any doubts till now, you guys can please post your queries. The first thing is we have to calculate the prime cost. In prime cost, we will add all the factory overheads to calculate to get gross factory oblique work cost. In gross factory oblique work cost, if we make adjustments of opening work in progress and closing work in progress, we will get the factory cost or work cost. You guys have to memorize this format. First, memorize this format and then try to solve few questions. You'll be thorough with Kaushik. And it's a very easy chapter, guys. Let me check if there are any queries. Now, after calculating the factory cost or work cost, we have to add few items to calculate the cost of production. So what all items need to be added? This part is very important and a new part and a new concept. So after calculating the factory cost or work cost, certain items need to be added to calculate the cost of production. So first one is the quality control cost. First cost is what? The quality control cost. Next is research and development cost. Quality control cost. Quality control cost. Research and development cost. administration overheads. Very important, related to production. Administration overhead related to production. Administration overhead related to production. Thereafter, we will subtract credit for recoveries. And lastly, we will add primary packing cost. And after adjusting these items, we will get the cost of production. So first item, quality control cost. Second item, research and development cost. Third item, administration overhead related to production. Next is credit for recoveries, and the last is primary packing cost. After adjusting these items, in factory cost or work cost, we will get the cost of production. Now, before explaining these points, I request you guys to please copy this explanation because I'll be erasing this part. So I'm giving you 2 minutes time to copy this explanation. So please copy these points. It will be very useful for you. So please copy this part. Mr. Anmol Patwa, I'll be explaining these items one by one. So I request you guys to please first copy this part. Giving you 2 minutes time. Now let's start with these 5 points one by one: quality control, research development, administration overhead related to production, credit for recoveries, and primary packing cost. So let's start with quality control. Now, to maintain the quality of a product, we do incur quality control cost. So let's say in question, it is given that salaries paid to quality control staff. It will form part of quality control cost. Let's say to test the quality of a product, let's say we are using some kind of raw material also. Then again, that material used for testing the quality of the product or for inspecting the quality of the product, that raw material cost will also form part of quality. That not even we can say the raw material, the material what we are using to check the qualities. Let's say some, we are using some sort of chemicals also to test the quality of the product. So the cost of that chemical use will not form part of purchase price of raw material. It will form part of quality control cost. When talking about the research and development cost, the second part is research and development cost. So to improvise the product or to improvise the production process, the companies do incur this research and development cost time to time. So whatever the cost of research and development, especially related to the improvement of the product or production process, will form part of research and development cost. Let's say again, any expenditures that are incurred related to research and development, you'll find some sort of hints given in the question. So using these hints only, you can classify the cost under research and development cost. Now, the third point is administration overhead related to production. So in short, they are talking about the factory administration, not the office administration. General administration overhead will not form part of cost of production. They are talking about the administration overhead only related to the production. So administration overhead, let's say the salary paid for the administration of the factory, or let's say the salary paid to the production control manager, it will form part of administration overhead related to the production. Now the next point is credit for recoveries. What it means, very important, guys. See, when talking about the cost, while calculating the raw material consumed, we have deducted an item that is amount realized on sale of scrap. That time I was talking about the scrap of raw material. But let's say during the production or production process, some waste is generated, or we can say some byproduct is generated. And if we are selling these byproducts in the market and we are realized something on sale of byproduct, that amount realized will be deducted. So when talking about this point, credit for recoveries, that talks about the amount realized on sale of scrap or waste, or very important, byproduct. Amount realized on sale of scrap or byproduct generated while manufacturing So amount realized on sale of scrap or waste or byproduct generated while manufacturing the product or during production process, or we can say during, let's say during the manufacturing of sugar from sugarcane. Molasses is generated, and this molasses is a marketable product. We can sell it in the market. So amount realized on sale of molasses will be deducted here. That is credit for recoveries. But let's say during transit, let's say I'm into manufacturing sugar, and during transit, let's say some of the raw material is damaged. During transit, only some of the sugar canes were damaged, and we have to just scrap out few sugar canes. So the amount realized on sale of scrap of sugar canes will be deducted from the cost of purchase price of raw material. But if any amount is realized on sale of scrap generated while manufacturing sugar from sugar cane, then that amount will be deducted. So sale of scrap of raw material to be deducted from purchase price, sale of scrap generated from the production process will be deducted while calculating the cost of production. Now, when talking about the packing cost, the last point is the packing cost. It is classified in two parts. That is primary and secondary. Now, when talking about the primary packing cost, see, this packing we can't avoid. To market the product or to make it marketable, we need to spend something on primary packing cost. The best example is, let's say, Tetra Pak of Fruity. So that without this Tetra Pak cost, that is the box in which we consume Fruity, without this box, the Fruity cannot be sold in the market. Or let's say the bottles in which we consume Fruity. So without these bottles, the Fruity cannot be sold in the market. So the cost of that bottle they are talking about is my primary packing cost. So primary packing cost, we can say the cost of the Tetra Pak, or we can say the cost of the bottle, or we can say the cost of the plastic bag in which we are getting milk every day in the morning. So this is what we call as the primary packing cost, and it will form part of cost of production. But when talking about the secondary packing cost, let's say 10 bottles are packed in a separate carton. So the cost of that carton, that is the secondary packing cost, it will form part of cost of sales. It will form part of cost of sales. It will form part of distribution cost, selling and distribution cost. So primary packing cost, it will form part of cost of production. Secondary packing cost, it will form part of cost of sales. If you guys have any doubts in these 4 points, you guys can please post your queries. Further, I request you guys to please copy this explanation also. Any doubts, any queries, guys? Yes, Ayushi, Abdan, Anmol Patwa, Divya, Kiran, Mallu, Om Krishnan Gupta, Satish, Sash, Shoaib, Srinivasan, Sunil, Ganga, Yamine. Any doubts, guys? Wait for some time, Abdan. I'll be covering this part also. Don't worry. Let me complete all these points one by one. I'll be covering all these points also. Don't worry, guys. Arjun, any doubts? I request you guys to please copy this part. I'll be raising this part. So please copy this explanation. So we have calculated the cost of production and carry forwarding this figure. I have calculated this cost of production. In this, we will make adjustments of opening stock and closing stock of finished goods. In this, we will make adjustments of opening stock of and after adjusting opening and closing stock of finished goods, we will get cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold. Now, one more point, very important point, the value of closing stock of finished goods. The value of closing stock of finished goods. So when talking about the valuation of closing stock of finished goods, it will be valued at cost of production. Assuming we are using FIFO approach. Let's say my cost of production is 4 lakh. Units manufactured are, let's say, 8,000 units. And let's say units sold are given, let's say, 6,000. Now, sorry, what will be the cost of goods sold? So very simple, guys. Herein, out of 8,000 units manufactured, 6,000 units are sold. It means closing stock will be of how many units? 2,000 units. Now see, the cost of production per unit will be how much? We manufactured 4 lakh units and the cost is 8,000. So 4 lakh divided by 8,000. It will be 50. So the value of closing stock will be how much? Will be 2,000 into 50. So it will be 1 lakh. So my cost of goods sold will be 4 lakh minus 1 lakh, that is my cost of goods sold will be 3 lakh. So in short, very important point, it will be valued at cost of production, assuming we are using the first in, first out approach for valuing closing stock. So very simple, if the cost of production is 4 lakh, units manufactured are 8,000, it means the cost per unit is 50. 2,000 units are in stock, so 2,000 into 50, 1 lakh will be the value of closing stock. And my cost of goods sold value will be 3 lakh rupees. Now let's proceed further. So after cost of production, we have made adjustments of opening and closing stock of finished goods. And this is how we got cost of goods sold. In this cost of goods sold, In this cost of goods sold, we will add all the general administration overhead. It means all the office overheads or general administration overhead. So in this, we will add all the office and admin general. In this, we will add all the office and administration overhead. Then selling overheads, distribution overheads. So in this cost of goods sold, we have to add all the office and administration overhead, selling overhead, and distribution overhead. The final figure we'll get is cost of sales. And then let's say if we want to calculate the estimated profit, see, this exercise is done to fix up the selling price. All this exercise, the major mode of cost calculation is what? To fix up the selling price. अगर हमें cost ही पता नहीं होगा तो हम लोग selling price कैसे fix up करेंगे? So all this exercise is done to fix up the selling price. So if we want to calculate the estimated profit also, we can calculate it after adjusting with the net sales value. We can calculate the final estimated profit also. So in short, this much only will form part of cost of sales. This much only will form part of cost sheet. But if we want to calculate the estimated profit also, if we adjust the cost of sales from the sales value, we will get the estimated profit. So herein, this is all what about statement of cost sheet. Herein we have arranged all the cost, jitna bhi cost lagne wala hai in relation to manufacturing a product, we have already considered in this cost statement, but yes, in a systematic way. So what is cost sheet? As I said, it is a statement. ये क्या है? एक statement है, wherein this systematically arranged. कोई भी cost कहीं पे भी नहीं लिखा है. We have systematically arranged all the costs that will be incurred in relation to manufacturing a product. So this is all what about cost sheet, cost statement, in fact. So if you guys have any doubts or queries in this part, you guys can please post your queries further. Let's quickly revise. Let's try to memorize with me. Try to memorize, try to repeat it with me. Try to memorize the format first. So first thing, opening stock of raw material. In this, we will add purchase of raw material. We will subtract closing stock of raw material. We will get raw material consumed. In this, if we add direct wages and direct expenses, we will get prime cost. So direct material, direct wages, direct expenses, we will get prime cost. In prime cost, what we will do? We will add all the factory overheads. In prime cost, we will add all the factory overheads. We will get gross work cost or factory cost. After calculating the gross work cost or factory cost, if we make adjustments of opening and closing work in progress, इधर हमने एडजस्टमेंट किसका किया? ओपनिंग क्लोजिंग रॉ मटेरियल. इधर हमने किसका किया? ओपनिंग क्लोजिंग वर्क इन प्रोग्रेस. Here we have made adjustments of what? Opening and closing stock of finished goods. So three parts. So when talking about after adjusting opening and closing stock of work in progress, in gross factory cost or work cost, we will get the factory cost. So after factory cost is calculated, these 5 important points: quality control cost, research and development cost, administration overhead related to production, primary packing cost, and last, credit on amount realized on sale of byproduct. We have to adjust all the items to get the cost of production. That is the final cost of production. In cost of production, we will make adjustments of opening stock and closing stock of finished goods. इतने units manufacture किए, उसमें से इतने sell कर दिए. तो what we will get? इतने यूनिट्स मैन्युफैक्चर किए, उसमें से इतने स्टॉक में बच गए. तो इट मींस व्हाट? वी विल गेट द यूनिट सोल्ड, एंड द अमाउंट व्हाट वी विल गेट इज व्हाट? द कॉस्ट ऑफ यूनिट सोल्ड और कॉस्ट ऑफ गुड्स सोल्ड. After calculating cost of goods sold, the remaining cost, office, selling, and distribution, we will get the cost of sales. So this is all what about format of cost sheet. I request you guys to please copy this format. Please copy this explanation, giving you 3 to 4 minutes time to copy this explanation. In the meanwhile, whatever the doubts you have, you guys can please post. There are certain points still left in cost sheet, so I'll be discussing these points also. So giving you 3 to 4 minutes time to copy this statement first. See, everything is given in study material, but what you write, you remember. आप जो लिखेंगे आपको याद रहेगा. So every time it's like you can't refer study material. Try to prepare your own notes, because sometimes studying with study material gets boring. So once it's like you have written something, you will remember it. So try to write the things instead of taking screenshots. Sometimes, okay, if it is a lengthy question, then you can take screenshot. But these explanation part, the concept part, I request you guys to write. What you will write, you will remember it forever. So try to write this cost sheet format. Copy this explanation, giving you 3 to 4 minutes time, and then we'll discuss one more concept, wherein what all items will not form part of cost sheet. So just 3 to 4 minutes time, copy everything, and then we'll be back with the remaining part. So 2 to 3 minutes time. Quickly, guys. Always remember, Srinivasan, the cost finished goods are to be valued at cost of production only. That's it. A simple answer to all your question. Finished stock is valued at cost of production. That's it. Once done writing, just you can say that's a done. Once it is done, you can write done. Divya Verma. 1 second. Let me check, Divya. Opening stock of finished goods, and this is closing stock of finished goods. The final amount after adjusting opening and closing stock of finished goods, we will get cost of goods sold. Office and administration overheads general. Okay, here it is where you are saying, Divya. This is office and administration overhead, general, selling overhead, distribution overhead, cost of sales, profit and sales. And then closing stock of finished goods, valuation. This is valuation. There are certain items that are not to be considered while preparing cost sheet. There are certain items which will not form part of cost sheet. Can you guys suggest me what all items will not be included in cost sheet? So waiting for your answers, guys. There are certain items not to be considered while preparing cost sheet. Okay. So Om Krishnan Gupta, abnormal cost, penalty, fines. Very good. Okay, Divya Verma, depreciation will always form part of cost sheet. If it is depreciation related to factory building, it will form part of factory overhead. If it is depreciation related to plant and machinery, again factory overhead. If it is depreciation on delivery vehicle, it will form part of selling and distribution overhead. So bad debts, interest. Very good, Kiran. Very good, Om Krishnan Gupta. Anyone else? Any new point? Yes, waiting for your answers. Penalties. Everyone waiting for your answers. There are certain items which will not form part of cost sheet. Very good, Kiran. Correct. Yes, Mr. Mallu, Mr. Abdan, waiting for your answers also. Ayushi Mehta, Divya Verma. So see, as mentioned by few students, bad debts. Or we can say provision for bad debts. any abnormal loss or abnormal gain. Any subsidy or grants from government. Any penalties, we can say fines, demurrage, interest paid or received. Interest not only on interest of capital, on capital, interest paid or received by whatever name called will never form part of cost sheet. So any sort of finance charges, will never form part of cost sheet. Let me check. I have got few more messages. Very good, Kiran. Very good, Ayushi. So, dividend or proposed dividend paid or received. Any sort of provisions or transfer to reserves. Purchase or sale of assets or investments. Any assets or liabilities that are given in the question, you have to ignore. Let's say land and building is given. So land and building, plant and machinery will never form part of cost sheet. But yes, depreciation on land and building or depreciation on plant and machinery will yes form part of cost sheet. So if any sort of information is given in the question and it is given to confuse you guys that assets are given or value of assets are given or liabilities are given, debtors, creditors, whatever it is, ignore it while preparing cost sheet. It is just to confuse you guys. Income tax, discount allowed, not discount received. Any sort of trade discount is received, it will be deducted from the cost of raw material. But if we are allowing any discount to the buyers, then yes, it will not form part of cost sheet. So I think this much is more than sufficient. Abnormal loss I have already considered, so this much is more than sufficient. So this is the list of items. There can be few more also, but as of now, this much is more than sufficient. So I request you guys to please copy this explanation. All these items are to be ignored while preparing cost sheet. One more point, profit/loss on sale of assets or investments. I request you guys to please copy this part. Yes, Ram Yamini, grants or subsidies by whatever name called received from government will not form part of cost sheet. But yes, if we are receiving any subsidy on purchase of raw material, then it will be deducted from the raw material cost. I'm just making each and every point. I'm explaining each and every point in detail and in a very clear way so that you guys should not get confused while preparing or while solving the questions. So please copy this explanation quick, guys. So done with the explanation part, done with the theory part now. So let's quickly revise what I have discussed till now. Then we'll be starting with the practical questions. So today we have started with cost sheet. What is cost sheet? It's a statement wherein we systematically record all the expenditures or the costs that are to be incurred in relation to a particular product. When talking about cost, direct cost and indirect cost. Now we discussed the statement also wherein the first one is direct material, direct labor, direct expenses. We will get prime cost. In prime cost, we will add all the factory overheads. We will get the factory cost or work cost. In factory cost or work cost, we will make adjustments of opening and closing work in progress. We will get what? We will get after adjusting, we will get the factory cost before we will get the gross factory cost or work cost. So after getting factory cost, we have to make adjustments of quality control cost, research and development cost, administration overhead related to production. We have to subtract credit for recoveries and we have to add primary packing cost. After making these adjustments, we will get the cost of production. In cost of production, we will make adjustments of opening and closing stock of finished goods. We will get cost of goods sold. And in cost of goods sold, we will add all the remaining expenses, that is office, selling, and distribution. We will get cost of sales. So this is all what about cost sheet. Certain items not to be considered while preparing cost sheet. Generally, it is bad debts, interest cost, any sort of provisions, abnormal cost, fines, penalties, demurrage, etc., etc. All these will not form part of cost sheet. So this is all what about the detailed explanation about this chapter. Now we'll be starting with the practical question. So let's take a break of 15 minutes. I'll be back after 15 minutes with few practical questions. So admin sir. Admin sir, are you there? Admin sir, are you there? Sir, put a break of 15 minutes. Yeah. Welcome back, my friends. Now, I request you guys to please open your study material. I'll be discussing few illustrations from the study material. So I request you guys to please open your study material. I'll be starting with illustration number 1, the very basic illustration. I request you guys to please open your study material, page number 6.10, illustration number 1. So let's start with illustration number 1. The following data relates to the manufacture of a standard product during the month of April. So the data is given for the month of April, wherein the particulars are given, that is raw material, direct wages, machine hours worked, machine hour rate per hour, administration overhead, general, selling overhead per unit, units produced, units sold, and the selling price per unit. Further, you are required to prepare a cost sheet in the respect of the above, showing the cost per unit and profit for the month. So no worries. Let's start with the cost sheet. So the company has manufactured 4,000 units, 3,600 units are sold. That means 400 units are still in stock. So let's prepare the cost sheet. Since the question is asking us to calculate the per unit cost also, so we'll be calculating the per unit cost also. So let's start. This is the total amount. And it is the per unit amount. Now herein straight away raw material is given, that is 1,80,000. And since 4,000 units are manufactured, so this will be 45. When talking about the direct wages, it is 90,000. And this will be 22.5. No information is given in the question as regards direct expenses. So no, since no information is given in the question as regards direct expenses, so this will be my prime cost. That is 2,70,000. This is 60. Now herein, it is given that the machine hour worked at 10,000 and the machine hour rate is 8. It means they are talking about the overheads, that is factory overheads. So in this, if we add factory overheads, that is 10,000 hours into the rate is 8 per hour. So this will be 80,000. So 80,000 divided by 4,000. 80,000 divided by, so this will be 20. Now in prime cost, if we add factory overheads, we will get the gross factory cost or work cost. After this, we do make adjustments of opening and closing work in progress. What we get? The factory cost. Now herein no information is given as regards opening and closing stock of work in progress. So this will be my factory cost. Now in factory cost, we add what? Quality control cost, research and development cost, administration overhead related to production, primary packing cost, and we subtract credit for recoveries. So let's check any information is given in the question as regards these points. So no information is given. Nothing is given as regards the quality control cost or research and development cost, etc., etc. So straight away, we will be getting what? The cost of, this will be directly my cost of production. This will be directly my cost of production. So 270 plus 80. This will be 3,50,000. And this will be my cost of production. And this will be 87.9. Since no information is given as regards the various items, so this will be directly the cost of production. In this, if we make adjustments of opening and closing stock of finished goods, we will get the cost of goods sold. So herein no information is given as regards opening stock, but yes, the closing stock is there because the units manufactured are 4,000 and the units sold are only 3,600. It means 400 units are still in stock. So if we subtract closing stock is of 400 units, and it is, as I said, it is always valued at cost of production. So 400 into 87.5. So this will be 35,000. So 3,50,000 minus 35,000. This will be 3,15,000. This will be what? My cost of goods sold. So these 3,15,000 is what? For 3,600 units. Because the adjustments of 400 unit is already deducted. So this 3,15,000 is for 3,600 unit. So this will be 87.5 only. Now in this, we will add all the administration, selling and distribution cost. So administration overheads are given in the question. That is, it is 35,000 and it is general administration overhead. The selling overheads are given. It is 5 rupees per unit. So how many units sold? 3,600 units sold into 5. You'll get 18,000 here and 35,000 divided. So this is how we'll get the cost of sales, and it will be this will be 3,68,000. And this will be 102. So this is the first part of the solution. Now the second part, the question is asking us to calculate the profit for the month. The selling value is given, that is 125 is the selling price. So this is 4,50,000. Herein we will subtract the cost of sales for 3,600 units. So this is 3,68,000. So we'll get the profit figure. That is 82. If you guys have any doubts in this part, you guys can please post your query. I'm done with this example number 1. So the similar solution is there in the study material, so no need to copy. If you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post. So let's start with illustration number 2 of the study material. Illustration number 2 of the study material, the page number is 6.12. Illustration number 2, 6.12, page number. The following information has been obtained from the records of ABC Corporation. The following information has been obtained from the records of ABC Corporation for the period from 1st June to 30th June. So the information is given as regards the cost of raw material opening and closing, the cost of work in progress opening and closing, the cost of goods in stock, finished goods, that is opening and closing, the purchase of raw material is given, the wages paid are given, the factory overheads are given, the administration overhead related to production is given, the selling and distribution and sales is given. We have to calculate raw material consumed, prime cost, factory cost, cost of goods sold, and net profit. So it's a very easy question. So let's solve this question quickly and then we'll start with the next question. So let's prepare cost sheet. So opening stock is given, purchases are given, and closing stock is given. Opening stock of raw material is given, that is 60,000. Purchase of raw material is given, that is 4,80,000. And closing stock is also given. That is 50,000. So this will be 4,90,000 raw material consumed. In this, if we add wages paid 2,40,000, no information is given in the question as regards direct expenses. So this will be my prime cost. So this will be 490 plus 240. 7,30,000. In this, if we add factory overheads, we'll get the gross factory cost or work cost, that is 1 lakh are my factory overheads. So this will be 8,30,000. Gross factory oblique work cost. Now, in this, we will make adjustments of opening and closing work in progress. So add and less opening work in progress and closing work in progress. It is 12,000 and 15,000. We'll get factory cost or work cost. And this will be 8 lakh. Herein in this question, administration overhead related to production are given straight away. So if we add administration overhead related to production, it is given how much? 50,000. This will be 8,77,000. This will be the cost of production. In this, if we have to make adjustments of opening and closing stock of finished goods. So opening and closing stock is given, that is 90,000 and 1,10,000. So this will be 8,57,000. 8,57,000. Now in this, so this figure will be what cost of goods sold. Now in cost of goods sold, If we make adjustments for selling and distribution overhead, it is 25,000. We'll get cost of sales. So 857. So this will be 8,82,000. In this, the sales is given that is 10 lakh. We'll get the final figure that is my net profit. So this will be 1,18,000. A very basic and a very simple question. If you guys have any doubts, you guys can please post your queries. It's a very easy question and a simple question. This question is given just to explain you the format. That's it, nothing more than that. Such type of questions examiner don't ask. So now we'll be starting with illustration number 3. So let's start with illustration number 3. Now this question illustration 3 is very lengthy. Again, these types of questions examiner don't ask, but this question is more for practice and understanding the concepts in a better way. So I'll be discussing this illustration number 3 orally, and if the time permits, then we'll discuss 1 or 2 practical questions also. I request you guys to please open your study material. It's a very good question and it will cover all the concepts in detail. So please open illustration number 3 of the study material. So I'll be discussing each and every item one by one. So illustration number 3, Arnav Ispat Udyog Limited has the following expenditures for the year ended 31st March 2023. So the first item is raw material purchased. It will form part of prime cost. Further, GST paid on above 18%, that is 1 crore 80 lakh. And further in bracket, it is given eligible for input tax credit. It is eligible for input tax credit. So we are paying GST, we are getting the credit back. So no need to add and subtract. Better ignore 1 crore 80 lakh. Freight inward 11,20,600. It will form part of cost of raw material. So it will be added to the purchase price. It is freight inward. So raw material is done. Now wages paid to factory workers, direct wages. Contribution made towards employees provident fund. Again, it will be added to the wages only. Production bonus paid to factory workers, again wages. Now, so wages is done. Now royalty paid for production. It's a direct expenses. What is royalty paid for production? It's a direct expenses. Now the next point, amount paid for power and fuel, again a direct expenses. Amount paid for purchase of molds and pattern, the life is 2 years. So 8,96,000 is the total. So the life is 2 years. So in short, In cost sheet, the amount that will appear is what? How much? 8,96,000 divided by 2. So 4,48,000 will form part of direct expenses for this year, and for next year also it will be 4,48,000 only. Job charges paid for job worker, again it will form part of direct expenses only. Now we are done with the prime cost. I think everything is given and we have already put up. Now stores and so direct material, direct wages, direct expenses, it will be prime cost. Now stores and spares consumed, it will form part of factory overhead. Stores and spares consumed, it will form part of factory overhead. Next is depreciation on factory building, factory overheads. Office building, general administration overhead. Plant and machinery, again factory overheads. And delivery vehicle, selling and distribution costs. So depreciation on factory building, it will form part of factory overheads. Office building, it will form part of general administration overhead. That is, we write it after cost of production, and it will form part of cost of sales actually. So we will write it after cost of production, that general administration overhead. So it will form part of that general administration overhead. Depreciation on plant and machinery, factory overheads. Depreciation on delivery vehicle, it will form part of distribution overheads. Now salary paid to supervisors. Supervisors are generally kept in factory, so it will form part of factory overhead. Now repairs and maintenance for plant and machinery, factory overheads. For sales office buildings, selling and distribution overhead, and vehicle used by the director. Directors generally sit in office, so it will form part of office overhead. Now, insurance premium paid for plant and machinery, it will form part of factory overheads. Insurance premium paid on factory building, again factory overheads. And insurance premium paid on stock of raw material and work in progress, again factory overheads. Now, next is expenses paid for quality control check activity. So it will form part of quality control cost. So very important, guys, expenses paid for quality control check activity, it will form part of quality control cost. Salary paid to quality control staff, the name itself says that it's for the quality control. So it will form part of quality control cost. Research and development cost paid for improvement in production process, it will form part of research and development cost. Expenses paid for pollution control, engineering and maintenance, it will form part of factory overhead. Very important, guys, they have given this part separately, but it will not form part of research development or administration overhead related to production. It will form part of factory overheads only. Now, next is expenses paid for administration of factory. Expenses paid for administration of factory, it is what? Administration overhead related to production. Administration overhead related to production. Now, salary paid to production control manager, again, the production control manager works in factory. So again, it will form part of administration overhead related to production. Finance and accounts, it will go to administration overhead general. And sales and marketing, it will go to selling and distribution cost. Salary paid to general manager, general administration overhead. Primary packing cost, it will be shown separately while calculating cost of production. For redistribution of finished goods, it will form part of selling and distribution cost. Interest and finance charges paid, it we have to ignore while preparing cost sheet. Fees paid to auditor, it will form part of office and administration overhead general. Legal advisor, again, administration overhead general. Independent director also, whatever the fees paid, administration overhead general. Now they have given the value of opening stock and closing stock of finished goods. Further, the last point is given, that is amount realized by selling of scrap and waste generated during the manufacturing process. So this amount is to be deducted while calculating cost of production. So these are just few examples. If you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post your queries. Waiting for your queries, guys. Yes, Divya, Abdan, Srinivasan, any doubts, guys? Okay. Salary paid to plant supervisor is a part of factory overhead. Salary paid to plant supervisor, it will form part of factory overheads, Mr. Om Krishnan. Interest and finance charges we have to ignore. Interest and finance charges, whatever by whatever name called, we have to ignore while preparing cost sheet. I request you guys to please read the question carefully once again. Do tick whatever you are finding it easy. Still, if you are finding any difficulty, then you can ask me, giving you 3 to 4 minutes time to just read the question once again and try to just figure out that whether you are going correct or not. So just giving you 3 to 4 minutes time. Try to figure out that are you able to segregate that which item will go where. So giving you 2 to 3 minutes time. Abdan, in revised study material, this mistake is already been corrected. So as of now, in my opinion, you have to ignore it. No need to consider it while preparing cost sheet. I think in the revised material, this part is already edited. So take 3 to 4 minutes time, 3 to 4 minutes time, reach in each and every item and try to figure out that whether you can place the item correctly or not. So giving you 3 to 4 minutes time, guys. Just read it and try to figure out. So let's start with one more practical question. Practical question number 3 from the study material. It's a bit different question. I request you guys to please open your study material. I'm discussing practical question number 3, page number 6.24. Page number 6.24, practical question number 3. So let's start with this question. So A Limited and company has the capacity to produce 1 lakh unit of a product every month. So this company has the capacity to manufacture 1 lakh units of a product in every month. Its work cost at varying level of production is as under. So they have given the work cost only, that is the after adjusting the opening and closing work in progress, that is the work cost what we get, or the factory cost what we get is at 10% level of production, the work cost is 400, and so for 100% it is 310. So if we manufacture 1 lakh units completely, my work cost will go down to 310 from 400. Now its fixed administration expenses amounting to rupees 1,50,000 and fixed marketing cost is 2,50,000 per month. So administration, selling and distribution cost are given, that is 1,50,000 and 2,50,000. And the variable distribution cost is also given, that is 30 rupees per unit. So this cost is they are going to incur for administration, selling and distribution. Now it can sell 100% of its output at 500 per unit if it incurs the following further expenditure. Now they have given a situation wherein they can sell full 1 lakh units at the rate rupees 500 if they spend so much on advertisement. So they are saying it gives a gift item costing rupees 30 per unit of sale. So this is the selling and distribution cost. It has a lucky draw every month, giving the first prize as 50, second prize as 25,000, and the third prize as 10,000, and 3 consolation prizes of 5,000 each to the customer buying the product. So consolation prizes cost rupees 5,000 into 3, 15,000. Further, it spent 1 lakh on refreshments served every month to its customers. So they have to spend something on selling and distribution, that is refreshment of rupees 1 lakh. Further, it sponsors a television program every week at a cost of rupees 20 lakh per month. So it sponsors a television program every week at a cost of rupees 20 lakh per month. So the cost is not given weekly, it is the cost per month only. Now, it can market 30% of its output at 550 per unit. So they can sell 30% of output at 550 per unit without incurring any expenditure as mentioned in A to D. Now you are required to prepare a cost sheet for the month showing the total cost and profit at 30% capacity level and 100% capacity level. So let's start with the solution. It's question number 3. So again, read what the question is asking. You are required to prepare a cost sheet for the month showing the total cost and profit at 30% capacity level and 100% capacity level. At 30% capacity level, my units will be 30,000, and at 100% capacity level, my units will be 1 lakh. Now let's check the main question that at 30% capacity level, my cost is 380. So my work cost is what? 380 at 30% capacity. So 380 into 30,000. So this will be 1 crore 14 lakh. And at 100% capacity, my cost is only 310. So my work cost is available and it is given in the question. If you guys have any doubts till now, you guys can please post your queries. Now in this, we will add all the administration and selling overheads to calculate the cost of sales. So let's start with administration overhead. It is given in the question that its fixed administration overhead are 1,50,000. In both the cases, either if we go for 30% capacity also or 100% capacity also, we'll add marketing expenses, fixed and variable are given. When talking about the fixed marketing expenses, it is 2,50,000 per month. In both the cases. And variable market and the variable distribution cost, sorry. Variable distribution cost is 30 per unit, so it comes to 30 lakh. And this will be 9 lakh. So this will be 30 lakh and this will be 9 lakh. Now, the next is the special or additional cost. We can say the special. So let's start one by one. First is it gives a gift item costing rupees 30 per unit on sale. Now, in this case, no expenditure is required, but yes, in this case, it will be 30 lakh. 30 into 1 lakh. Now the lucky draw, it is first prize is 50,000. So first prize is 50,000. The second prize is 25,000. The third prize is 10,000. And consolation are 5,000 each to the customer buying the products, 3 consolation prizes. So it's 15,000. So this will be 1,90,000. This will be 1 lakh only, sorry. So price, it will be 1 lakh. Now, again, they are saying that they have to spend something on refreshments also. 1 lakh rupees. And some TV sponsorship of television program. Rupees 20 lakh. That's it. We are done with all the cost now. So let's calculate the total cost. That is my cost of sales. This will be 1 crore. So the first will be 1 crore 27 lakh for 30,000 units. And for the second one is this will be 3 crore 96 lakh. If you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post your queries. So we have got the cost of sales. Now let's calculate the profit amount also. Now see, when talking about if we want to sell 100% units, we can sell it at 500 rupees per unit. So 500 into 1 lakh. So 500 lakhs, that is 5 crores. And in this case, we can sell 30,000 units at 550. So this will be 1 crore 65 lakhs. So when talking about the profit, we can calculate the profit also. This will be 1 crore 20. So 38 lakh will be the profit in this case. One crore 4 lakh will be the profit in this case. So if you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post. It's a very simple question. The question is just trying to give you additional information so that you might get confused. But again, stick to the basic. Read each and every point of the question one by one and try to solve it normally. So it's just a very simple question like any other question. If you have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post your queries. Waiting for your queries, guys. Mr. Srinivasan, when talking about the valuation of closing stock of finished goods, I have already explained in detail. I think that time you were not there in the class. Anyways, the value of closing stock of finished goods will be the value of cost of production. That is, it will be valued at cost of production. So calculate the cost of production per unit and multiply it with the number of units manufactured. You will get the total value of closing stock of finished goods. Anyone else? Those who want to copy the solution, you guys can copy. Anyways, the solution is there in the study material. If the amount is straight away given in the question, then no need to do any exercise. But if the amount is not given, then do remember, Srinivasan, it will be valued at the cost of production. Those who want to copy the explanation can please copy. And in the meanwhile, I'm done with this chapter. So if you guys have any doubts or queries, you guys can please post it over the portal or Zoom. I'm open to any sort of queries, whatever it is. Any doubts, Komal, Arjun? Srinivasan, hopefully your query is resolved. Still, you can refer the session. Once again, I have covered everything in detail regarding the calculation of value of closing stock of finished goods. So asking individually, Ayushi Mehta, Abdan, Abhimanyu, Divya Verma, Kiran Bala, Mallu, Om Krishan Gupta, Srinivasan, Sunil Ganga, anyone having any doubts or queries, you guys can please post. Whatever running in your mind, just try it, just put it over the, you guys can put the query. Whatever it is, I'll try to address it. Great. So Komal and Arjun, all good. Fine. So done with this chapter, a very easy chapter. Still, if you have any doubts or queries, you guys just, I think there will not be any queries in this chapter. It's a very easy chapter. The point is, stick to the basic, try to memorize the format and put the figures in the format. That's it. Everything is done thereafter. So, thank you so much, guys, for your time and patience. Try to solve all the questions in writing of the study material, and you guys can check out few past MTPs and RTPs questions also. So try to solve all the questions in writing. You'll find this chapter very easy, and it's a bonus marks for you if it comes in exams. So take care, guys. God bless you. See you day after tomorrow with a new chapter. Till then, thank you so much, guys. Enjoy. Admin sir.